Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's December 16, 2022, and this is episode 799. I shot my last bio photo on January 21st, 2014, my birthday, almost 9 years ago. I no longer own the camera and lens in that old shot, and 9 years have gone by and taken their toll on me too. So I have been thinking that I should probably update my self-portrait for a while now, and have been looking for a time when I could reshoot. Today I had a choice of two topics in mind for a podcast. The first one was about editing image selections, which I'll be talking with our Patreon supporters about over the weekend. So rather than jumping the gun on that topic, spoiling it for the patrons, I figured I'd go for the self-portrait. Self-portraits are a weird beast. I imagine that many people like me are relatively self-conscious and not entirely happy with how we look. So sitting down to make an image of ourselves takes us out of our comfort zone and feels a little narcissistic. We want to look good, but we know that it isn't going to be easy because we sometimes don't look good. Because of this, I've always tried to make the most of what I have, and having the ability to create good lighting and shoot enough images to select the best image from a larger batch generally helps. When you're in business and become the face of your brand, our bio photos tend to be far-reaching. I always upload my self-portrait to Gravatar, a widely used service connecting profiles and email addresses with a profile image. I upload my company logo, the Kneeling Man Photographer, for many of my email addresses, but for my primary addresses, I use my bio photo so that people can see who they're communicating with. So if you've ever communicated with me and wondered why my mail address is associated to a photo, the reason will probably be Gravatar. Okay, so it's actually now 2 days later. I have had a few things to do, and I was not happy with one of the portraits that I did, so I reshot. And the result is that it's now December 18th, Sunday morning, and I'm going to continue this. A lot of what I'm going to read to you now was already prepared, but I've changed the end a bit. So anyway, let's get down to the shoot. So I have 3 backgrounds in a pulley system. As I do a lot of shooting in my studio, it's easier to have it on a pulley system. Previously, I shot both a black background and white background shot, as I have both colors in my pulley system, but I've almost exclusively used the white background image over the last 9 years. So that is what I'm going to shoot first. I sold 2 of my 4 Profoto studio lights a few years ago, as I was only using 1 or 2 for most of my shoots. And when I did this initial reshoot of my portrait, I planned to try something slightly different, which was use a 2x3 foot softbox above and to the left, but pointing towards the background more to illuminate that, and keep it white. And then probably just spilling a little bit of light onto my head. For the second light, I used a honeycomb in a zoom dish, which is a light modifier from Profoto that literally points the light directly at you, and it doesn't allow the light to spread out so much. So it's a kind of a more focused light to see if I can create something a little more dramatic. I also set up my recurve archery bow to try and get something moody, probably with a black background, as my bow is primarily black and red, and archery has become a very important part of my life since I took it up as a hobby in July this year. So I wanted to add a paragraph or two about it on my About page, and you can actually see that by going through the About screens after clicking the About button in the toolbar at martinbaileyphotography.com. Initially, as I prepared this podcast and blog post, at this point I had completed 2 self-portraits. The new regular bio shot went fine. I like how the Profoto zoom dish with the honeycomb inserted focuses the light into a spot. If nothing else, it helps me to fill the wrinkles around my eyes a little. So, although my face is a little squarer than before, I managed to not look much older than my shot of 9 years ago. Here in the blog post at mbp.ac/799 is the resulting photo so that you can see what I made. I like the catch light that the honeycomb spotlight provides as well. Softboxes are great, but also produce a sizable rectangular catch light, as opposed to the circular spot in my eyes in this image. I also moved the spotlight to the right of the camera so that it caused a bit of a shadow from my nose. It's large enough that I didn't want it to disappear, and a bit of a shadow helps. I still put my camera into the shot as it's part of my identity and brand, but it's nice to replace the old 1DX with my current camera, the Canon EOS R5, and the 200 to 400mm lens was replaced by my 100 to 500mm lens, which is now my wildlife bread and butter lens. I'll also include an iPhone shot of my setup at this point, with the Profoto zoom dish on my first studio light and the 2x3 foot softbox that I used to light the background. Note that I did still have to brush in a little increased exposure over the background to the right side of the image to make it pure white, as the light from the softbox dropped off before it got that far down the background. You'll also see that I was using my big old video tripod head for the EOS R because I had my beloved Really Right Stuff tripod in the photo I was making. And I sold my second Really Right Stuff tripod a year or so ago, as I was not using it enough to warrant keeping it. After this, I moved on to try and shoot a second portrait with my archery bow, but I was not so happy with the first attempt, and I ended up reshooting it yesterday after I had started to prepare this episode, and I have now gone with my latest version of the image. Part of the original problem was that I was working in too confined a space, so I moved my camera and the spotlight behind my desk and changed my lens from the 50mm to the 24 to 105mm so that I could zoom in to frame similarly but from further back. I also moved the spotlight to the left of the camera instead of the right because the bow cast a shadow onto my face, which didn't look great. I then removed the honeycomb so that the light was less directed. The honeycomb focuses the light more harshly than I needed for the second portrait, and removing it provided a hard light but not as harsh, which seemed to work better by emphasizing the metallic feel of the bow. I updated my image in the Gravatar system, and I was surprised that the photo displayed along with my comments on the blog was automatically updated within a few seconds. That's a pretty efficient and powerful system that they've built there. Anyway, relatively short episode, but I'd like to end with a request for you to share a link to your own bio photos via the comments, which you can find at mbp.ac/799. It doesn't have to be a studio portrait, but It's always nice to see who's listening, and if you have a story behind why you use the image that you use, I'd love to hear about that too. Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, which comes with various tiers of benefits depending on your contribution, and all tiers provide access to the MBP community. For further details, check out our Patreon page at mbp.ac/Patreon. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you do. Bye bye.